Chapter 34 Let's Pretend Part 1
"Let us see the handsome houses where the wealthy nobles dwell," quoted Hilary. In other words, let us take a stroll along Ebegwait Avenue. There's one of the new houses there I want to show you. I won't tell you which one it is. I want you to guess it. If you're the lass I take you to be, Pat, you'll spot it at sight.
It was a Saturday afternoon in spring, with sudden sweeping April winds. The world seemed so friendly on a day like this, Pat thought. She wore her crimson jersey and tam, and knew she looked well in them, and that Lester Conway, scowling by in his roadster, knew it too. But let Lester scowl on. Hilary's quizzical smile was much pleasanter in a companion, and Hilary looked brown and wholesome in the spring sunshine. Not much like the ragged little lad who had met her on that dark, lonely road of long ago, but the same at heart. Dear old Hilary. Faithful, dependable Hilary. Such a friend was better than 1,000 of Judy's beaux. They had not gone home for this weekend, since the Satellites were having a wind-up jamboree that night. Pat could by now survive staying a weekend in town, yet she felt that she always missed something when she did. Today, for instance, the wild violets would be out in happiness, the white ones, and they not there to find them. Ebegwait Avenue was the finest residential street in town, and at the end of it ran out into the country, with a vision of distant emerald hills beyond. It always compelled Pat to admit that there were a few satisfying houses in the world besides Silverbush. All kinds of houses were built on it, from Victorian monstrosities with towers and cupolas to the newest thing in bungalows. Pat and Hilary loved to walk along it, talking when they felt like it, holding their tongues when they didn't, discussing and criticizing the houses, making changes in most of them, putting in a window here and slicing off there, lifting or lowering roofs.
"A low roof gives a house a friendly air," said Hilary.
Some houses thrilled them, some charmed them, some annoyed them. Some were attractive, some repellent. "I'd like to smash a few of your windows," was Pat's reaction to one. Even the doors were fascinating. What went on behind them? Did they let you out or in? Then they had to settle which house they would accept as a gift, supposing they were simply compelled to take one. "I think I'd take that gentle house on the corner," said Pat. "It has an attic. I must have an attic, and it looks as if it has been loved for years. I knew that the first time I ever saw it. It would like me too, and that funny little window away off by itself has a joke it wants to tell me."
"I'm choosing one of the new houses this time," said Hilary. "I like a new house better than an old one, when all is said and done. I would feel that I owned a new house. An old house would own me."
Pat had kept a keen lookout for Hilary's house. She had thought several of the new ones might be it, but when she saw it, she knew it. A little house nestled in a hollow half-way up the hill. Its upper windows looked right out on the top of the hill. Its very chimneys smacked of romance. A tremendous maple tree bent over it. The tree was so enormous and the house so small. It looked like a toy house the big tree had picked up to play with and got fond of. It had a little garden by its side, with violets in a corner, and in the center a pool with a border of flat stones edged with daffodils. "Oh!" Pat drew a long breath. "I'm so glad I didn't miss that. Yes, if they give you that house, Hilary, take it. It's so right, isn't it?"
"That tree in the front should be cut down, though," said Hilary thoughtfully. "It breaks the line, it spoils the view."
"It doesn't. It simply guards it as a treasure. You wouldn't cut that lovely birch down, Hilary?"
"I'd cut down any tree if it wasn't in the right place," persisted Hilary stubbornly.
"A tree is always in the right place," said Pat, just as stubbornly.
"Well, I won't cut it down yet awhile," conceded Hilary.
But I'll tell you what I am going to do some dark night, Pat. I'm going to sneak up here and carry off that cast iron deer next door and sink it in the bay fathoms deep. Would it be worthwhile? The whole place is so awful. You couldn't carry off that enormous portico. The house looks like a sanitarium. Did you ever suppose any place could be so hideous?
The house next to it isn't hideous, exactly, but it has a cruel, secretive look. I don't like it. A house shouldn't be so sly and reserved, and there's a house I'd like to buy and groom it up. It's so out at elbows. The shingles are curling up, and the veranda roof is sagging.
But at least it isn't self-satisfied. The next one is positively smug. And that one, they say it cost a fortune, and it's as gloomy as a tomb.
Shutters on those stark windows would make an amazing difference, said Hilary reflectively. It's really wonderful, Pat, how much a little thing can do to make or mar a house, but I don't think there's any place for dreaming in that house. Or for ghosts. There must be a place for dreams and ghosts in every house I'll design.
There's that unfinished house, Hilary. It always makes my heart ache. Why don't they finish it?
I found out why. A man began to build that house just to please his wife, and she died when it was only half done. He hadn't the heart to finish it. That white place is a house for the Witch of the Snow. It's positively dazzling.
What's the matter with that house in the middle of the block, Hilary? It's very splendid, but
it hasn't enough restraint. It bulges like
like a fat woman without corsets, laughed Pat. Like Marianne McClenahan. Poor Marianne died last week. Do you remember how we thought she was a witch, Hilary? One house was as yet only a hole in the ground, with men setting pipes and running wires in it. Who was waiting for that house? Perhaps a bride-to-be? Or perhaps some tired old body who never in her life had a house to her liking and meant to have one before she died. There was a house that wanted to be wakened up, and there was one with Dr. Amos coming out of it. He looked grave. Perhaps someone was dying in that house. He wouldn't be looking like that if a baby had come.
I would like to see all the houses in the world, all the beautiful ones at least, said Hilary, and I've got a new idea for your house today.
He was always getting new ideas for it, but nowadays he never told her what they were. Everything was to be a surprise. They walked back in silence. Hilary was dreaming. All men dream. His dream was of building beautiful homes for love to dwell in, houses to keep people from the biting wind and the fierce sun and the loneliness of dark night. It must be a fascinating thing to build a house, to create beauty that would last for generations and be shelter and protection and friendliness as well as beauty. And some day he would build a house for Pat, and she must live in it. Pat was thinking again how nice it was to walk with Hilary. With Harris and Lester she had felt that she must always be bright and witty and sparkling, lest they might think her dumb. Hilary was restful, and he never said embarrassing things. To be sure, his looks sometimes said many things his tongue never did, but who could quarrel with looks?